Hello, my name is Christopher Bolduc, and today I'll be analyzing the various types of metric dissonances that occur in Tchaikovsky's Symphony No. 5, third movement, Valse. So if you look at the beginning, just at the writing, there's a rest in the bass on beat 1, and there's a melody that begins on beat 1. This melody appears to be alternating between like a 6/8 feel. Maybe you could interpret it this way: a 6/8 feel, and then a bar of 3/4. So you have a bar 6/8, 3/4, bar 6/8, 3/4, etc. Now the low bass definitely emphasizes beat 2. Bum 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 bum. Right. So when listening to this, you'll notice that the whole thing just feels off for some reason at the beginning. That's because our ear, or at least my ear, and other people that I know, the ear interprets the bass as beat 1. So this is metrically shifted, and we call this a displacement dissonance, and we label that as D3 minus 1, which basically means it's in 3, but the feel is shifted by a beat, by 1 beat to the left. So when looking at the score, one can see an accent on the first beat here. After this whole beginning passage is displaced, this accent gives the listener a bit of an in on where the beat really would be. Da 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 da. Beat 1. I've also notated, you'll notice, these dots. So the dots are the surface level, the quarter note rhythmic level pulse. And then the 2 dots, where they have the most emphasis, is where the big beat in the bar would line in this case. So as you can see, I've annotated it here. Definitely emphasis on 2. Moving forward a bit, you'll see on this little transition thing before we get back to the main melody, you'll see I have these bracketed areas, right? So it goes da 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 da, and then you have these groupings of 4s, da 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 da, ba da 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 da, and then we lead back to the melody, which is now not displaced anymore. It's on the beat, and then the listener is now back on track. But if you look at these bracketed areas here, you'll see that they're in groupings of 4. This is kind of like a hemiola thing, a 2/3 or 3/2. So in this case, we call this a grouping dissonance, and we label it as a 3/2, with the big beat being on the top, and then the division sign is just saying how we're breaking up the beats. So this is definitely in groups of 2, and he's basically riding over the bar line, and then ultimately leading us back to beat 1 here. Again, now you'll notice it's still the alternation of 6/8 bar and then a 3/4, but the bass is now playing all quarter notes. So, and then there's an emphasis on 1. So 1 2 3 1 2 3 in the kind of waltz style, with the low bass notes like this here, and then the upper 2 beats 2 and 3 being a bit weaker. The alternation of the 3/4 or 6/8 is still happening throughout. And this continues for quite a bit. So towards the end of the first section, actually right before the second section with running 16th notes, you'll notice that Tchaikovsky rhythmically displaces the top line with the bottom. So the bass is on the beat and in 3. I have it marked in these dots with the big 3. But there's a syncopation line on top that's just 1/8 note off. So this would be a displacement dissonance, and this would be within the realm of the 8th note subdivision, and the melody is 1 off, 1/8 off. So that would be a displacement, 6 plus 1, and it's 1 off. It's 1 off succeeding the bass. So you'll notice between the end of the first section, with these offbeats juxtaposing the downbeats in the low bass, that leads us into an abrupt 2-2 feel of a measure. So dun 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 dum with the double forte. That's really solidifying a 2. So and then you get these groupings of 2s with these hairpin dynamics, these swells and the violins and the recording that are in groupings of 2s. So 2 2 2. Then you have one long one that leads again to a group of 2 that's juxtaposed over still the big group of 3. So this is a grouping dissonance of 3/2 in the top line. But the bass line is completely just in 3/2 time. 1 2 3 1 2 3. Or you can even maybe see it in the bigger as 1 2 3 4 5 6 1 2 3 1 2 3. And now, because of the registral differences here, you have groupings of 2 that lead with these accents 1 2 1 2 1, and then the beginning of the soprano violin melody begins again. But still in the bass, I think you can still confidently hear 1 2 3. So through this section, you have this juxtaposition of these groupings of 2s and then longer groupings of 4s, which are just 2s broken up, over a bass line that is in 3/4. This interplay continues for pretty much the entirety of the second section. So the last few bars exploit some pretty interesting rhythmic ambiguity, which was presented at the beginning and in the second theme. So at the end here, you have still this kind of feel and theme happens throughout 1 2 3 1 2 3, but that's still within a grouping of 3. Even though 1 isn't as emphasized, it's still a grouping of 3 and 3/4. But here, what happens? You have 1 2 3 1 2 3. This bar here and this one beat here, as if it's just a 1/4 bar, and then you have these groupings of 2. So 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2, and then a bar of 3/4 1 2 3 1 2 3. So it really is more of a feel. I mean, one can rhythmically analyze it, but Tchaikovsky lays out pretty clearly here what's happening with the accents. So at the end, Tchaikovsky again groups them in a grouping dissonance of a 3/2. This one beat here can act a bit as a pickup, but then you have these groupings 1 2 3 4 of them, and then you have one final 3/4 bar to conclude.